I'm Leslie Torres. I'm Rosie Brown.
I'm Eric Ballou.
And we chose Oil is the Cheap Date from Hell by Peter Coy and Matthew Phillips. So the article is mostly about how the oil prices are linked to stock prices and how the fluctuations there have been caused mostly by the increase in supply more than demand. Because if you have a bunch of supply but not as many people wanting to buy it, that can really cause some pessimism in the market. So they've been fluctuating a lot lately and overall been at a downward trend. But why should we care? Well, most of us probably have cars, and if you probably like cheaper oil, I would hope. Also, for anybody interested in shorting, it could lead to some very interesting investment opportunities. Also, when oil gets cheaper, everything gets cheaper because manufacturing, any form of travel, all that gets cheaper because the production cost is low.
And how it's relevant, well, like he said, most of us drive, and everyone likes cheaper gas, and it gives you options of where you can purchase your gas. And another thing is market suffers from falling oil prices, and it gives you the ability to spend money that you're saving on gas in other places, like stores. You can go buy meals and stuff like that. Another thing, it benefits farmers. When rates are low, stocks become more alluring, so more people are likely to invest in like stocks and stuff.
So the main problem in this article is the oil correlation conundrum. So basically, like he explains, when there's an oversupply of oil, the prices go down. And then from there, investors decide, hey, that's a bad thing, so we're going to sell our stocks, and therefore that affects the marketplace in a negative way. And then you can also see how that affects the energy industry and therefore how that might affect other industries. So obviously when oil prices drop, the energy industry is affected, and they hold. When this article was written, they held a 6.6% of the S&P's market value. That might not seem a lot, but it is enough to affect the market value negatively. And then also, at that time there was almost a $1 trillion cut in spending, and when that happened, that affects railroads, pipe makers, I believe, and other industries. And then also, the oil industry borrowed a lot for oil projects, and that affected the banks negatively because the oil people weren't making enough money to pay back that money. So when the banks suffer from that default that the oil industry didn't pay, that affects other industries because the banks may not be able to lend them money anymore. So, when stocks and oil drop, that might mean, for investors, that might mean a recession, but that's not necessarily true, because when you take out the energy stocks from the S&P, you can still see that the S&P market value is still rising. And I put an example here in 1986 and 1998. Sorry, I forgot the example, but you can see in that example that the S&P values fell, but that was only because of the oil prices. So, yeah.
Okay, so what have we learned so far? Basically, the primary thing that we learned is the falsehoods that are created around the drop of oil prices. Now, a lot of people believe that there's an economic impact, that the economy is going to tank once oil prices drop. However, that's not the case. The reason that the economy usually tanks isn't directly correlated to oil prices, but rather that people tend to sell their stocks once the oil prices drop, because they think that for some reason that is going to have an effect on their stock, which sometimes it does. Usually it happens in consumerism, but it doesn't usually tank the stock. It's usually just people dumping the stock. Now, the effects on the economy can be both beneficial and detrimental. The way that it's beneficial is it's beneficial towards farmers who use oil on a regular basis, and consumers such as yourselves, since you use oil every day to get to work, get to school. But the ways that it can hurt the economy is mainly through oil producers, since America is one of the top world producing oil nations. Another problem that companies face are due to the decreases in oils would mainly be the drop in consumerism. Now, effects of oil prices on consumerism. Basically, once oil prices drop, people tend to buy less because for some reason, they believe that a recession is going to be happening soon. However, in reality, there's no direct correlation amongst the two. So people believe that the economy is going to start tanking, therefore they need to start saving rather than spending. The probability of a recession remains very low, not highly, but very low during a time of oil drop or price drop, and also it applies to the daily consumer and corporate companies based on the consumerism because we purchase it on a daily basis. So that's how it applies to us. And the way that it applies to our education is to know primarily that the oil industry is very volatile. The prices will change on a continual basis. So if you do invest in it, you run that risk of losing a lot of money from investing in stocks, or you could also potentially gain a lot of money. For example, in 2016, the price in oil was $29, but now it's at $54 beginning in January 2017. So that's already almost double in profits. So potentially you could have gained. Also, before that, it was around $60, $70 a barrel, so you could have lost a lot as well. And that concludes our presentation on oil prices.
Thank you. So Taylor, what do you think?